everyone, I'm Natalie of So Hungry Hippie, and I'm going to show you how I do a recessed zipper on the Santorini tote. Alright, I'm really happy with the end result of the bag. I love it. The zipper is inside. Let me close it here. I have putting dishes away. There's the recessed zipper. I like the straps like this. It's a nice size. Here's the first example of a recessed zipper hack on a Santorini tote that I made. I did use a double pull zipper, but you don't need that. Also, I used a very long zipper and just kept the end, the stop there, intact, and I just tucked it down into the bag. This is a variation. If you don't want to do zipper tabs, get a pull or a zipper with a stop that you can use. There's all different methods of making a recessed zipper. I'm just showing you the way I do it. Here are my two zipper panels. I did interface these with SF101, fusible interfacing. I usually do it in a grouping like this. Simpler to kind of batch things if you can. 17 inches wide, 5 inches high, okay? This is for the purse size Santorini tote. Now, this hack is a free hack, but I'm not gonna go through every single step of making the bag because all that information and that video walkthrough is in the pattern. And I appreciate the support, so thanks. All right, let's get going making this buddy. I am going to fold this long side to long side. I'm going to take it over to my iron and press. I'm going to do this for both of the pieces. I want to lose the sunshine. But it's cold. It's like 25 outside right now. Okay, so now we're just going to sew down each end and then turn it right sides out. All right, so make sure you did your 1/2 inch seam allowance on these edges and then flip it out and use a paintbrush or some kind of tool to pop out your corners. Give it another quick press so that it sits really flat and it's easy to work with, okay? Now we'll end up centering this. See how we have a finger width space on each end? We want that. So I'm not gonna worry about the body piece right now. If you're wondering, I always sew foam onto my vinyl and fabric, and then I sew the layers together. That's another video. You can look for Santorini tote videos. I have a whole bunch of them on my YouTube channel. All right, let's get back to this. So I'm gonna use a number 5 zipper. I have this in the shop, it's double-sided. So no matter which way I look at it, it looks good. Now the way I do my zipper panels, I like to cut my zipper longer because I'm gonna do tabs on the end and then tuck the zipper down in, okay? So I always just lay it out like this. I think this is so much easier than trying to measure. I for sure know that this zipper is long enough doing it this way. You have the folded sided towards the zipper, because this open end, that'll be sewn into the seam allowance on the bag in a little bit. And we can go ahead and base that down since that'll just make it easier to work with. But I wanted you to visualize this first. I'm going to cut my zipper tabs this big, and I'll show you why in a second. Let me see. These are These are 2.5 by 4. So this is how I do my zipper tabs. I take that 2.5 by 4 and I fold it in half and press. Okay? Then, as you can see, I take the edge here and fold it up 1/4 inch and press. Turn it to the other side. Fold that edge up 1/4 inch and press. Now what I do with these, see how that's going to be like that? That's where we'll slide the zipper in. Now what I do is just sew down each short side, and then I'll flip it out, right sides out, and you'll see the magic. All right, so this one I've already tried turning out. There it is. Now this one I'll turn right sides out. You can see what we're gonna do, right? We're gonna tuck our zipper in there and just use a clip or a pin to hold in place. Really doesn't matter how long, you can make your zipper as long as you want to, but I just make sure that it's gonna extend past the zipper panels a bit so I can tuck it down into the bag or lift it up out of the bag and hold on to a tab while I'm opening the Santorini tote. So it's up to you. I'm gonna go sew these down now. If you want to, if you're feeling fancy, you can stitch all the way around the square if you like that look. I don't. Now a tip for your open end, I like to close it first. Make sure everything is even. And just, if it's a sewable zipper, close up that end first. It'll just make your life easier. All right, now I'm gonna put it in here and make sure the tab is centered, and then I'll sew it down. Now you can pin or use clips to hold it in place if you like. There we go. Now I'll trim my threads. All right, let's get ready to sew this together. So the folded edge is what we're working with. Don't worry about this open edge, okay? Folded edge, take your zipper, right sides together, align the top edge, and we're gonna sew all the way, sorry, we're gonna sew all the way down to attach this zipper. You can use pins or clips, it's up to you. I just center the zipper so that I've got roughly, I mean that's not perfectly centered, but it's good enough. Just so you know you're not short on one side. You want to be able to tuck both ends down into the bag. My zipper with tabs is 21.5 inches, in case you're curious. If you're working with a number 5 zipper, you can get away, usually if you have a 1/4 inch foot. I never have to change to a zipper foot when I'm working in this style with a number 5. There it is. Now I'm going to top stitch. So I'm going to push that seam allowance down. Make sure my pull is out of my way. And the seam allowance is that way. I'm catching it as I'm sewing. If you want to make your stitch length a little longer, it can look nice. See how this side of the foot is butted up against the teeth? That keeps me really straight. Alright, as you can see, one side is on and I did top stitch. So now I'm going to attach the other side. Remember, we're working with the folded edge. Lay it right sides together. Make sure that your panels are aligned and the folded edge is butted up right with that other side of the zipper tape. Geez, Tori, I hope the camera isn't picking up your snores. I mean, I guess it's exhausting being a pug. Everybody wants to cuddle you all the time. Now we're going to sew that down, press it so the seam allowance is going that way, and then top stitch. It's attached. Now I'm going to flip it up. And if you want to, you don't have to do this, but I like to do a top stitch. Just looks really neat. If you use your iron, it can help. I want to share this tip with you just in case it happens to you. If you don't watch it when you're top stitching, sometimes this won't be perfectly even. A-okay. We just want it trimmed up to be even so that when you attach this in the next step to the bag body, you're grabbing both layers. You're not missing one. So it's a good idea to just give it a hairline trim, just like hardly anything, to make sure it's super even. Okay. Now I'm ready to attach it to the bag. Here is my outside, my exterior of the bag. I'm going to take the zipper panel, whichever way you want, it doesn't really matter, and I'm going to center this. Raw edges are at the top, and I'm placing it centered so there's a finger width distance on each end, and I'm going to clip in place. And now we're going to sew all the way down here, 1/4 inch seam allowance. Trust the process. I know it feels weird if you've never done a recessed zipper, and there's probably many ways to add one, but this is the way I do it because I think it's easier to think about and understand. But in case you feel weird right now, it's okay. Just trust the process. Okay, this side is attached. Now we're going to attach the other exterior side. I find it easier to just place this on my work surface. I bring this in, I match the top edges, Make sure I've got my finger space right there. Everything's aligned. And I do my clips. Okay, now it's attached. Isn't that awesome? And if you want to fix anything, if you feel like these panels are not even enough for your liking, you can just pick it out and try again. It's fine. Now we're gonna match up these contrast bands at the bottom. For sure, put clips there. You can even, if you have a fabric top, you can put pins. Gonna match it on this side. Ooh, see, I was way off there. It can be easy to do. And also, I forgot to trim my vinyl on this one. My vinyl was wider. I always sew my fabric panel to the top, and then I trim excess vinyl away. It's what works for me. So now I need to match up, without getting my head in the way, the vinyl and the vinyl, fabric and fabric. I like to really make sure that's correct. And the zipper panel is just going to sit down in there like that, okay? Now don't be tempted to sew this top edge. We're not sewing up there. We're only going to sew the sides and the bottom, but you need to tuck in your zipper tails. So I just tuck it in like that and put a clip there. And I come over here and tuck that one in, and in fact, I'm going to pull to the middle. And then tuck it inside so you're not sewing over the zipper here. You're not sewing over the zipper in this method. All right. Regardless of which way you're making your zipper, we're going to sew down the sides and across the bottom. Okay, now the sides and the bottom are sewn, and we're going to do our boxed corners. We do the boxed corners now. We will add the lining. It's a little bit different method than the usual way that I do the Santorini tote. So again, just trust. All is well. In the pattern, I give you a couple different options for your boxed corner size. You can always play around with it and experiment. You don't need anyone's permission to play around. All right, here we go. Come in here, make sure that your vinyl is on each side, that you don't end up sewing your boxed corner and it's like this, where two vinyls on one side. Let's do a quick check. Nest your seams. One goes one way, one goes the other way. And I like to make it really flat when I put it through the machine. And I sew across here twice, but not in the same exact line. I sew once at 1/4 inch and once just outside 1/4 inch, okay? Now I'm gonna do this side. And don't get fussy about your seam allowance. If you do a scant 1/4 inch and then 1/4 inch, that's fine. Anything works as long as you remain consistent. Let me go sew these real quick. is the lining for my bag, and I just wanted to show you this is how much I cut off of a fat corner. So I'll keep this. I'll use it again in another project, but here it is. So I'm going to cut my other piece and we'll put this bag together. Okay, so here's my fat quarter. I'll take my other lining piece. If you don't like measuring, this is a trick. I do it all the time. Make sure everything is smooth. It's just less measuring. There's my lining. I do recommend interfacing your lining with SF101. Okay, the same thing with this. The top is open. I sewed the sides and the seam, or the bottom, and I left an opening for turning. So I'm going to do the same thing. I like to mark. We measure from the outside, not the seam allowance. We measure from the outside of the fabric. The outer edge. So right across there. Gonna sew right across there. Now you've got your outside of the bag and you've got your lining. This is the difference. We have two separate bags here. This is what makes it different from the normal Santorini tote pattern. So let's switch views and I'll show you what we do. Okay, so first of all, make sure you open your zipper. Feed me Simone. Open your zipper, open your zipper, open your zipper. Okay, it's open. All right. Chillax, Natalie. These bags have to be right sides together. The way I do it is usually turn my lining so it's right sides out, and then I'm tucking it into the bag. You want to make sure that you're matching that top raw edge of the lining with the top raw edge of the bag. The zipper panel is down inside the bag. What I like to do is match my sides first and clip them into place, because if by chance I didn't sew my lining tight enough, I'll know immediately and I can just go back and re-sew the seams. Oftentimes I sew the seam allowance of my lining just a smidge bigger than the outside of the bag so that I have a really tight lining, tight fitting. Just in case you like that too. I used to not care very much. I think the more you sew, the more critical you become of your own work, and little things will tend to bother you that maybe didn't in the beginning of your sewing career. Okay, now guess what we do? Sew all the way around that top edge. You can sew all the way around the entire bag because you've got the lining to turn it right sides out again. Make sure your zipper is open before you do this part. I already said that. Here we go. I like to start sewing at a side seam because if there's going to be any issue, I want to hide it in that side seam. When I was new to sewing bags, sometimes I'd have a little bubble at the end, at the start and end of where I started sewing. And it's just a little trick that can really help. Hide that bubble in the side seam if you have it. I just go a few inches at a time. When I come up to a clip, I just stop with my needle down, arrange my fabrics, making sure everything is flat. If you're using interfacing on your lining, the tendency to bubble is a little less. It kind of prevents that, I don't know, stretchy tendency or something. It helps. Okay, I'm back to the beginning. Let's go turn this right side out. All right, we've got it sewn. Let's turn this bag right sides out. Ooh, that's a nice corner. Pull everything up and taut. Now, I'm gonna sew this lining shut, but for film's sake, let me show you how this is gonna be. Right about now you're going, oh my God, what did I do, right? Don't worry. You have to come in and press this down. Now I know what you're thinking. I didn't add my handles. But actually I like adding my handles or strap at the end. I don't know, I did it by mistake a few times and now I prefer it because I really know where I want them. Now, if you noticed when I added these panels, at this part when I joined here, I did not top stitch. And that's because I do it now. I do it at the end. When I know all these layers are good to go, I can get everything really straight and even. I'm gonna take this to the ironing board and then I will do a top stitch. And I also will push that guide down in there before I top stitch. And I think you do want to do a top stitch or your zipper panel will keep popping up on you. So you might want to take your clips and do this and let it sit for a few hours. I'd press it, maybe give it a whack with a whacker, a mallet, and let it sit before you top stitch. Perfectly fine. I used to feel so rushed whenever I did sewing projects that now I just kind of let myself enjoy the process. And if it takes longer than a day, then it does. And oftentimes I end up with a better project by just calming down, you know? Take it easy like Sunday morning. Okay. I'm gonna go iron that. It's looking so good, isn't it? Now, if you don't want to add straps at the end, like me, you would have attached your straps to the exterior of the bag like usual. Does that make sense? You would just attach them to the top raw edge of the exterior body, just like in the OG pattern. What you have to be mindful of is if you add them here and you're sewing or riveting them on, it will force your panels to be down in the bag. You will not be able to lift this up out of the bag if you do your rivets. Let me show you. I riveted my leather handles on and it keeps my zipper panel always down in the bag, and I don't mind it. I don't mind looking at rivets, but some people, you know, that may be a pet peeve. They may not like it, so it's up to you. I could have also just sewn those on, but for some reason, I did rivets. I don't know. All right, so I'm just gonna use my sewable leather straps, and Ruby and I decided dark brown looked best, didn't we, Ruby? I'm gonna take the strap out of the pack. I quite like the length when I fold it in half and then cut it right there. And my leather straps are supple, and that's why they're sewable. Smells good. So I am going to, I think just maybe place it like that. Wow, that's really nice. I can just tell it. You know what I did though? I called it Alexa earlier. And I was like, why isn't it recording? Oh, I called it Alexa. Instead of GoPro. This part gets a little chunky here on the side, but take it out and then start again past the chunky. Oh, the thread caught there. And there she is. That's the first one. This is the second one. Yay, yay, yeah, yeah, yeah. Now I'm on my way to go shopping. Go shopping. I'm gonna go shopping.